In the spring of 1943, over 20 million American families bent their backs over small plots of earth, planting seeds that would help win a war. These weren't soldiers on distant battlefields. They were grandmothers in Detroit, factory workers in Los Angeles, and children in rural Iowa. They were armed not with rifles, but with hoes and determination. Welcome to a story of how ordinary Americans transformed their backyards into battlegrounds of a different kind. This is the story of Victory Gardens, a movement that fed a nation, boosted morale, and proved that patriotism could be measured not just in bullets and bonds, but in bushels of beans and rows of radishes. When America entered World War II in December 1941, the government faced an enormous challenge. Millions of tons of food needed to be shipped overseas to feed Allied troops fighting in Europe and the Pacific. Commercial farmers were already working at maximum capacity, but they couldn't meet both military and civilian needs. The solution came from an unexpected place: the American backyard. The idea wasn't entirely new. During World War I, the government had promoted war gardens with moderate success. But World War II would see this concept explode into a national phenomenon on an unprecedented scale. In 1942, the government launched a massive propaganda campaign. Posters appeared on every street corner. "Plant a victory garden, our food is fighting," proclaimed one. Another showed a determined housewife wielding a hoe like a weapon. "War gardens for victory, grow vitamins at your kitchen door." The message was clear and powerful. Growing food at home wasn't just helpful, it was your patriotic duty. Every tomato you grew, every potato you harvested, freed up commercial produce to be shipped to soldiers fighting for freedom overseas. Within months, victory gardens sprouted everywhere. Backyards, certainly, but also rooftops in New York City, empty lots in Chicago, even the outfield of San Francisco's Civic Stadium. The Boston Common, that historic green space in the heart of the city, was divided into garden plots. Eleanor Roosevelt planted a victory garden on the White House lawn despite opposition from the Department of Agriculture, which initially feared it would hurt commercial farmers. Her garden became a powerful symbol, photographed and publicized nationwide. But these gardens required real work. Many Americans, especially those in cities, had never grown food before. Garden clubs organized classes. Agricultural extension offices distributed free pamphlets with titles like Victory Garden Manual and ABC of Vegetable Gardening. Newspapers ran weekly columns with planting schedules and pest control advice. Families learned which vegetables gave the best nutritional value for limited space. Carrots, lettuce, tomatoes, beans, and squash became staples. Root vegetables that stored well through winter were prized. Many gardeners preserved their harvests through canning, creating stockpiles that sustained families through cold months when fresh produce was scarce. But victory gardens represented something deeper than mere calories. They were a tangible connection between the home front and the front lines. In an era when families gathered around radios to hear news of distant battles, when gold stars in windows signified sons who would never return, victory gardens offered something precious: control. You couldn't stop the war. You couldn't protect your loved ones from enemy fire. But you could dig, plant, water, and harvest. You could do something real, something measurable. For children especially, these gardens became classrooms of responsibility and contribution. 10-year-olds tended their own plots, swelling with pride as their efforts produced actual food. Schools across the country created victory gardens where students learned both agriculture and citizenship. Listen to this memory from Ruth Morrison, who was 8 years old in 1943. "My father was in the Pacific. Every time I picked tomatoes from our victory garden, I imagined one of them going to him somehow. I knew it didn't work that way, but it made me feel connected to him, like I was helping keep him safe. The scale of the Victory Garden movement is staggering to contemplate. By 1943, an estimated 20 million Victory Gardens were planted across America. In 1944, these gardens produced approximately 8 million tons of food. That's roughly 40% of all vegetables consumed in the United States that year. Think about that for a moment. Nearly half of the nation's vegetables came from ordinary citizens working small plots of earth in their spare time. Urban gardens were especially productive. A well-tended 25 by 50-foot plot could yield $500 worth of vegetables in 1940s currency, equivalent to over $10,000 today. For working-class families facing wartime shortages and rationing, this made a genuine difference in both nutrition and household budgets. Cities competed to see which could produce the most. Detroit, the arsenal of democracy churning out tanks and planes, also grew over 500,000 Victory Gardens. New York City claimed 1 million gardens by 1944. Victory Gardens fostered community in ways both practical and profound. Neighbors shared seeds, swapped produce, and exchanged advice over garden fences. Mrs. Johnson might have too many zucchini, but desperately needed tomatoes. Mr. Chen next door had tomatoes aplenty, but no squash. Trading brought variety to dinner tables and friendship to neighborhoods. Many communities organized garden clubs that met regularly. Members brought their problems, blight, beetles, poor soil, and received collective wisdom. These clubs often evolved into social centers, places where wartime anxieties could be discussed and mutual support found. In workplaces, employees sometimes pooled resources to create communal gardens. Factory workers coming off shifts would spend an hour tending shared plots, the physical labor a welcome contrast to assembly line monotony. African American communities, despite facing discrimination and often lacking access to prime land, organized Victory Gardens with particular dedication. In segregated neighborhoods from Harlem to Houston, these gardens provided both sustenance and dignity, proof of capability and contribution even when broader society denied equal status. Growing food was only half the battle. Making it last required additional skills. Canning became a nationwide obsession. The government published canning guides and organized demonstrations. Women gathered in churches and community centers for canning parties, processing hundreds of jars in marathon sessions that mixed work with fellowship. The process was labor-intensive and sometimes dangerous. Pressure cookers could explode if mishandled. But families persisted because canned vegetables meant security, insurance against winter scarcity, and an extended contribution to the war effort. Basements filled with rows of glass jars, green beans, tomatoes, pickles, applesauce, relishes. These colorful rows represented hours of work, yes, but also abundance and pride. A well-stocked pantry was a point of honor, proof of industriousness and patriotic contribution. Some families traded canned goods, further diversifying diets. Others donated excess to church drives that supplied food to families of deployed servicemen who might be struggling financially. When the war ended in 1945, Victory Gardens might have ended too, but their impact continued in subtle ways. Many families maintained their gardens for years, having discovered genuine satisfaction in growing food. Skills learned during wartime, composting, crop rotation, season extension, enriched American horticultural knowledge. The movement demonstrated conclusively that ordinary citizens, given proper information and motivation, could make significant contributions to national needs. This lesson would resurface in later eras, from environmental movements to modern urban gardening initiatives. Perhaps most importantly, Victory Gardens embodied a democratic ideal of shared sacrifice and mutual contribution. Rich and poor, urban and rural, every family that planted a garden affirmed that all had a role in securing freedom. Veterans returning home often found that their families' Victory Gardens had become more than wartime necessity. They had become cherished traditions, tangible symbols of the home front effort that had supported them through dark years. Today, when we think of World War II, we remember the soldiers storming beaches, the pilots in the skies, the workers building ships and tanks. These memories are right and proper. But we should also remember the millions who fought the war with garden hose and canning jars, who rose early before factory shifts to water seedlings, who spent precious weekend hours harvesting and preserving, who taught children that citizenship means contribution, and that even small acts multiplied across a nation can change history. The victory gardens of World War II remind us that greatness isn't only forged in dramatic moments. Sometimes it grows quietly, row by row, seed by seed, in the patient work of ordinary people doing what they can with what they have. That spirit, practical, determined, communal, and deeply patriotic, remains as vital today as it was 8 decades ago. And perhaps in our own times of challenge, we might ask, what victory gardens could we plant? What small acts, multiplied millions of times over, might help us face our own uncertain futures? The answer, like those wartime gardens, might be growing right in our own backyards.